Hello everyone, welcome back. Here is Ali Talabi and this is module 11. In this module, we are going to talk about one of the most attractive topics in the world of finance and investment, risk and return. So, in the first lesson of this module, we'll talk about return, which is, I call it the visible half. And then the second lesson, we'll talk about the risk, which is usually the hidden half. Now, let's start our session with return. So in this lesson, I will talk about different terminologies related to return. So I will talk about the historical return, what do we mean by dollar return, percent return, and also we'll talk about multi-period return, in which we can use either arithmetic average or geometric average. However, in some cases, you might add to the money you have, or you might withdraw the money you have in your account or in your investment. So we'll argue that arithmetic and geometric average returns are not good to handle those cases. So for these special cases, we'll go with dollar weighted return. So at the end of this lesson, we'll talk about dollar weighted return. So let's start our session. So when we talk about an investment, and specifically when we talk about the stock investment, usually there are two major sources of income. So either you will receive some dividend, or since the stock price is going up, you are going to make some capital gain. So if you're unlucky, if the price goes down, for sure you will lose your money, and in this case it is called capital loss. So your total dollar return is based on the dividend income you receive and the capital gain. So if you add these two components, you will find the total dollar return. So for example, if you receive $2 dividend and the stock price is going up from $20 to $25, you are making $2 on dividend and $5 on the capital gain. So in total, you are making $7. But most of times we are not concerned about the dollar return. We are more interested to know about the percent return. So we can actually, based on this dollar return, we can calculate the percent return. So just simply, you need to divide the dollar return you calculated in previous step by your beginning stock price. So in my example, you paid $20. So you earned $7, $5 based on the capital gain, and $2 based on the dividend. So if you divide $7 by $20, you will get 35%. So that 35%, that's your percent return. So we can write it down in the form of formula. As you see, we are saying dividend plus capital gain divided by beginning stock price. Actually, we can divide or break down this formula into two components. The first component, which is based on the dividend, is called dividend yield. What is dividend yield? The dividend yield is actually the dividend, as you see here, that's the dividend you receive divided by the stock price. So that's how much you paid for the stock. So that's your P, or let's call it P no. And the second portion is the capital gain yield, which is again based on the stock price changes. So P1, that's the stock price one period from now. P no, that's the current stock price divided by P no, which is the current stock price. So we can write down the percent return based on the dividend yield and the capital gain yield. So in my example, I mentioned you receive $2 dividend. So your dividend yield just should be $2 divided by $20 you paid. So if you want just to find out what is your dividend yield, is 2 divided by 20, which in this case should be 10%. So 10% just your dividend yield. But also the price went up from $20 you paid for to $25. So that's the $25 minus $20 divided by $20, which is $5 divided by $20. So in this case, what's happening? Your capital gain yield, which is in terms of percentage, should be 5/20, which is 25%. So what's happening here? You are making 25% on the capital gain, you are making 10% dividend yield. So in total, you are making 35%. 35% is your total percent return, and that's how we calculate that. However, if you're talking about the multi-period returns, if you're talking about several years, we are interested to know our annual return, or in other words, our average annual return. There are several ways we can calculate the average return based on the historical data. One is just using the basic, simple average return, which is called arithmetic average return. So what is that? But just simply add all the returns we earned over time and divide it by number of periods. So if, for example, you're talking about annual basis, you can add your annual return and divide it by number of years. Let's look at this example. For example, let's assume for these 4 years you were able to get these returns: 10%, 24%. You lost 5% in 2018, and you earned 12% in year 2019. So what is your arithmetic average return? So in this case, what I do, I just add all these 4 returns, in which I get 41%, and then, as you see, I mentioned I divided by n. So I have 4 years in these examples, or 4 periods. So I just divide this 41% by 4, which gives me 10.25%. So you can say your average return on an annual basis, based on the arithmetic approach, it's 10.25%. And this is, again, for the multi-period. There is another way we can calculate to the average return. You see that sometimes you're more concerned about the growth of your money, or in other words, if you invest, let's say, $100 or $1,000, you want to see how much is growing. So the compounding factor here should play a major role. The arithmetic average doesn't consider that compounding factor. So if you are more concerned about the compound and the growth of your investment, I would suggest to look at the geometric average return. So as I mentioned, the arithmetic average return is mainly based on the average return over a particular period. So it ignores the connection amongst all those returns over time. However, the geometric average return is actually telling you what actually you earn per year on average, compounded annually. So in the world of investment, geometric is preferred to arithmetic because it's kind of more realistic. So let me provide you an example. So let's assume that we are talking about 2-year period. So year 1 and year 2. During year 1, you were able to gain 50%. So your money went up 50%. However, in year 2, you were unlucky and you just lost 50%. If you're following the arithmetic average return, you're just adding 50% plus minus 50% divided by 2. So based on the arithmetic average return, your average annual return must be 0. But is it true? So for example, you start with $100. First year, it went up 50%. So now you have $150. Second year, you lost 50%. So the money went down to $75. Based on the arithmetic average return, your return was 0. But you see, you start with $100, and 0 return means you should end up with $100. But you're losing $25 here. So it seems the arithmetic doesn't give you the actual return. So in this case, we'll look at the geometric return, which gives us a better estimate for our annual return, and considers and captures the effect of compounding and the growth of money. How we calculate geometric average? So let's look at this. Let's look at this example just to understand how actually we calculate the geometric average return. So let's assume that for the 4 years, I'm just using the same numbers we had in the previous example, the multi-period return. So you see that the return here is 10%, 24, minus 5, and 12%. So what I do first, in the first step, so that's the first step, I need to add 1 to each return. So it's 1 plus 10% is 1.1, 1 plus 24 is 1.24. Remember, in year 2018, you're losing 5%. So that's 1 minus 5%, which should be 95%. And in the last year, you are earning 12%, so it's 1.12. Now, in the second step, you are compounding this return. What does it mean? It means simply you are multiplying all these returns. So I'm multiplying 1.1 by 1.24, I get 1.364. I'm multiplying that by 0.95, I get 1.2958. I'm multiplying the result by 1.12 and I get 1.453. So 1.4513 is showing the multiplication of all these numbers over 4 years. So if that's the case, how can I calculate the geometric average return? Remember, you are looking for annual return. You are not looking for the 4-year period. So you have to find the square root of this number. Since this is for 4 period, what we'll do, you actually, as you see here, you actually find the power of 1.4513 to 1 over 4. So it should be 1 over n. So that's a third step. So in the third step, you need to find the square root. And this is actually not the square root, that's the fourth root of the number. Why the fourth root? Because it's 4 is 2 period, that's a square root. If it's a 3 period, that's a third root. So you need to find based on the number of years. So it should be 1 over n. So that's 1 over 4 in this case, and you will find the compound return. And in this case, if you subtract 1 plus your number, you will find the geometric average return in this case, which is 9.76%. So as you notice, this geometric average return is less than your arithmetic return, and this is always true. Your geometric return always gives you a number lower than the arithmetic return. So I would say that that's maybe this approach is a bit more pessimistic. So that's how we calculate geometric average return. However, what if you're talking about several periods? However, not only you start with some initial investment, but also you might end up adding to your investment, or you might end up withdrawing from your investment. In this case, you cannot use geometric or arithmetic return. So as I mentioned, when we are using the arithmetic and geometric return, the assumption here is that just there is one initial investment, and based on that, we can calculate the return, either arithmetic or geometric. What if you are adding to your investment? What if you're withdrawing from your investment? This is a very common situation. So you might add your investment. In this case, we are using the concept of dollar weighted average return. Dollar weighted average return. And actually what you're doing, we are using IRR, internal rate of return, as we learned in module 8, to calculate our dollar weighted average return. Now, to explain this concept, let's look at an example to see how we actually calculate the dollar weighted average return using IRR. So let's assume that you're talking about the 2-year period, and you earn 20% in the first year, and you lost 10% in the second year. Now, if I ask you just to calculate the arithmetic return, that's very simple. You're saying Ali 20% plus minus 10%, that's 10% divided by 2 year. So that's 5% arithmetic return. If I ask you to calculate the geometric return, so you can simply say, okay, Ali, that's 1 plus 20 is 1.2 plus 1 minus 10%, that's 90%. Or you can say 0.9. So you are multiplying 1.2 by 0.9 and then find the square root of this number, which gives you 3.9%, correct? However, the problem here is you are making initial investment $100, and in the beginning of the second year, you are making another $200 to your investment. So this is getting a bit more complicated. So the 5% and 3.9% are not relevant anymore. So if we go with the numbers, let's go with the dollar amount first, and then we'll talk about the percentage. What's actually happening? So you had $100 initial investment. It's growing 20% in the first year. So your money is going up from $100 to $120. At the start, at the beginning of the second year, you are adding another $200. So since you're adding $200, your investment now is $320. At the end of year two, because you are losing 10%, you see that your balance going down to 288. Why? Because you had $300 in the beginning of year two, and you're losing 10%, so you're losing $32, which means just $288 left. So you started with $300, you ended up with $288. Now you see why that 5%, 3.9% doesn't make sense, because both numbers are positive, but you see that actually you are losing money. How it's possible to lose money and have positive return? It doesn't make sense. So that's why we have to use the dollar weighted average return, which is based on IRR. Now, how we use the IRR? For sure, you need to have the cash flows. So now let's look at the IRR calculation. So I mentioned to use the IRR, you need to use the cash flows. What are the cash flows? The cash flows are the money you are investing and the money you are withdrawing. So in this case, you invested $100 in the beginning of year 0, you invested $100. So that's $100 negative. In the beginning of year 2 or at the end of year 1, be careful with the timing. At the end of year 1 or beginning of year 2, both are same. You are investing another $200. So that's a cash outflow, $200 negative. At the end of year 2, what's happening? You have in total $288 in your account. So just enter these numbers and you will find the IRR of minus 3%. Remember, it's much easier to use your financial calculator. If you go back to module 8, I explained how to use your calculator to find the IRR. Or you can use the Excel file in this case, and it's another way you can calculate the internal rate of return or IRR. So now this makes sense. On annual basis, you are losing on average 3%. So you're losing 3%. Now it makes more sense. That's it for today. So we talked about the first half, which was the visible part, return. Next lesson, I will talk about the risk, which is the invisible hidden part. And then we'll put these two components together. Have a wonderful day. Here is Ali Talabi. Take care. Stay safe. Talk to you soon.